10 big questions that can literally change your life. I saw this from the School of Life. And if you guys, I encourage you to type it. You could just type in the School of Life. They have these meaning of life cards. And they have these 10 questions. And they have more than that in the cards. But they talk about specifically about what gives your life purpose. What stimulates you to think about the things that you do well and that truly matter in your life? Where are you headed in your life? And are you aiming in the right direction for that? So these are 10 questions. Really cool. You can get more questions on there if you go to the School of Life. This is really cool. You can buy the deck too. They're not a sponsor or anything. I just enjoy them. But you can buy the deck, and then you could take these, or you could go to their website and get these questions. And then go on a date. If you've been on a couple dates with somebody, grab your wife, your partner, and ask these questions over a good meal. Go to some place, relax, let's chill, and then ask each other these questions and get answers. It's so beautiful, the answers that you get, and you'll really get to know people. This is something that I encourage each of you to do when you want to create intimacy in a relationship. And I'm not talking about intimacy in a sexual way. I'm talking about intimacy in really getting to know somebody emotionally, mentally, spiritually. This is a really great way to do it, is to get into some deep thought. And I'm at the point in my life right now where I really don't want to have unmeaningful conversations. I'm really not into that. Sometimes I get involved in certain conversations that may be funny or like comedy and stuff like that. But even that can lead to a point of something of meaning and point out something in my life. That's why I love comedy. It can point out something in my life I didn't realize that I needed to deal with. And it does it in a funny way and kind of a light way, which I love. But I encourage you, ask yourself questions all the time. This is going to create self-awareness. And I talk about self-awareness all the time because this is the journey that I'm going on. But you can use these questions, ask a friend, ask a partner, or you can journal them. Just write these down and then take time, sit alone and ask these and then answer them. First question, what might surprise people if they really knew you? That's a good one, huh? What might surprise people if they really knew you? So this is going to show, this is a really good question because this is going to show a gift or an ability that you have that you've been keeping from others, especially if you do this in a positive way. You can do a positive answer, a negative answer if you want. And the negative just shows you things that you need to work on that you're hiding. These are things that Jesus talked about. This is, taking our light and putting it under a bushel. There used to be a kid's song in Sunday school and stuff, Christian song. But, it's like basically putting, you take a light and then you put a big basket over it and no one can see. And that's our gifts and abilities and our talents, everything that we have. What might surprise people if they really knew you? Great question. Number 2, what do you want more of in your life? I was talking to somebody a while back and they were saying, I don't have very many friends. I can get relationships really easy. I've dated different guys and stuff like that, and I've been in relationships with guys, but I seem to jump from guy to guy to guy, and I give all my time, and I give everything to him, and I kind of lose my friends in the picture, or they just kind of go away and do their own thing, but I don't make time for my friends like I should, and I would like more friends. And that's just one thing, but what do you want more of in your life? This question is going to be really important because it's going to define what you should be putting your goals towards. Do you want more money? Do you want more time? Do you want to have more freedom? What is it? What do you want more of in your life? Number 3, what matters you the most? Maddens, like getting mad. What matters you the most about who you are? This is a good one because it's going to it's the ego is going to come out. You're going to say, oh, I'm really mad about myself about this. So this is going to show those things that you feel are weaknesses. And these are things that you're going to need to address. You're going to need to put love to it, put awareness to it, put acceptance to it. I was talking to somebody a little while ago and they were saying, I feel like I'm overweight. And I was like, well, what does that feel like to you? Because that's a relative term. and they were basically saying, if I could lose 20 pounds, I'd be happy. And I was like, would that really make you happy? If you lost 20 pounds, would that really make you happy? Like, are you using that excuse not to be happy? You can lose the 20 pounds. If you want to lose 20 pounds, you do what you want to do. But I don't think the 20 pounds of weight is what's causing the unhappiness only. I think if they lost 20 pounds, people get super rich and they're even more unhappy. Kids that grew up in billionaires and multimillionaires' homes, a lot of them commit suicide, right? It's a higher suicide rate than anybody else, besides veterans. So why does that happen? If I get this, then I'll be this. It doesn't work that way. So the things that you don't like in your life, these are things that you need to deal with in an acceptance level. You need to start, and when I say put love towards it, I'm saying you need to start making affirmations towards that. When you start feeling that emotion of I'm not good enough, or I'm overweight, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not like her, or I'm not like him, or he's so much better, or she's better than, when you start feeling that, you need to say that's not real. I'm going to put love towards this. The only way you're going to heal the world is to heal yourself. And this is a process of understanding. The things that you get mad about you are the things that you need to love yourself. Number 4, what do you long for other people to understand better about you? Now, if you take 100% responsibility for this question, what do you long for other people to understand better about you? I like this because this will show you how you need to communicate. When you get to know somebody, you're being passive aggressive or not making it clear enough. I talked to someone, I'm going to use examples because I talk to people and we talk about this stuff all the time. And I said, oh, so this is really important in your relationship. Her partner was talking about they wanted to be able to communicate better. And I was like, well, have you had a conversation with her? Well, kind of. We did it over text. I was like, no, face to face at a nice restaurant. Sit down. Say, hey, can we have a conversation? Put our phones down. I need to talk to you something important. No, I didn't do that. I don't know. We really don't do that. I'm like, well, you're not going to have a relationship then. You got to have the phone down, looking each other in the eye, one-on-one. Looking in the eye is so important. It's the window to the soul. There's something about just, try to just look at somebody and just stare at them in their eyes, each of you, for 10 seconds. Now stare at somebody in their eyes and look at them for 10 seconds, and both of you start thinking about how much you love each other. One of you will start crying, or both of you. You have to have that magical connection. And so if you feel like there's something that people don't understand about you, you're not communicating clearly that enough. And it's not just you sharing something one time. That's a narcissistic view to think, I shared it one time, they should get it. It takes 7 to 9 times for somebody to get something. It takes us like 30 days to make a habit or more. So why do you think somebody is going to get you? In relationships, this I always see this all the time. Guys are really dorky about this. Like, we don't pay attention to things, so sometimes you got to take a sledgehammer and hit us over the head, 20 times and let us know. That's not bitchy if you do it lovingly. Because she's like, well, I've heard that too. Well, I don't want to be bitchy about it. If you do it lovingly and just say, hey, this is really important to me, and I feel like you're not understanding this. I'm not mad at you. I just want us to have a great and amazing relationship, and this is important to me, and I want us to both work on this. How can I communicate to you clearly how important this is to me? How can I do a better job in that? And then you say, what's important to you? Now you get to open this conversation. Because there's things that each of us understanding what's important is a big deal. And I can pull a couple into a room and have this conversation with them. And if they're both honest and they both share what's really important, one of them is going to be like, oh, I didn't really know that. I didn't know that was number 1 on your list. So, take the time to help people understand you better. That's your responsibility. Just take the responsibility. Don't put it on them. You take control. Don't be a victim. Number 5, what do you wish you had never learned? This is a good one. So this is something, I like this question. What do you wish you have never learned? Because this is something that you need to forgive about yourself. If you say, well, I wish I had never learned, I was a fundamentalist and, when I was a kid, and that's just part of the past that you need to forgive. So this brings awareness in the sense of saying, oh, this is a part of me that I need to forgive. I need to let this past go. This is a part of me I don't like. I wasn't at my best self. But guess what? You're evolving and learning and gaining higher conscious. And if you wouldn't have gone through that catalyst, it's nothing bad. If you wouldn't have gone through that catalyst, that learning moment, you wouldn't be where you're at now. Number 6, who do you most envy? Now, if you do this right, who do you most envy? And you pick, people that you really, really envy, like in a good way, like aspire to be. This is going to help you get a direction of what success looks like for you. I don't know who, maybe you envy, the number 1 CrossFit girl in the world. Well, why? Is that something that you've always wanted to do and you haven't done it yet? Maybe you should go in that direction. So if you're finding people that are envying and they're all kind of like in the same little genre or in the same, it's like, how can I go there? And you may not be the number 1 CrossFitter in the world, but you could be the number 1 in your state, the number 1 in your city. And I always like to say this, who do you most envy? For me, it's like, what are the character traits in that person that I most envy? Not how they look, or if, a lot of that stuff can be manufactured with makeup and Botox and plastic surgery. That's not a character. That's not something to really envy. I mean, there's nothing wrong with those things. That's just having enough money and seeing a doctor, and, they are able to, make you look perceived to be more beautiful. But what do you most envy? I think that because when you look at that, for me, the things that I envy, like I envy someone that can work really hard and is disciplined. Somebody that is not as emotional, because there's just things that I wish to become. I don't want to be as emotional. I want to be more logical. I work hard, but it motivates me to see other people that work hard. I envy people that are big readers, because I love to read. I envy people that appreciate books, appreciate leadership. And I don't want to bore you with my list, but these are things, so then I look at it, how can I implement this in my life? How can I be a better person from this? What can they teach me? Number 7, what would you warn the child you about? What would you warn the child you about? This is really, really good. This can be very deep. And I've had a lot of conversations about finding the most horrific moment in your life when you were a child, and then you going and talking to that moment when you were the most fearful or the most scared as a child, and having that conversation with the child. What would you say to yourself? I've had this conversation multiple times, and it can be very, very scary with somebody if they're not ready to enter into that. If somebody's ready and they're more open and they like to talk about it, it's a really good exercise to do. Like, go back, find a major trauma in your life, and then say, realistically, if I could walk into that room, go back in time right now of who I am, and I could walk into that room and talk to the 5-year-old me, the 8-year-old me, the 13-year-old me, the 16-year-old me, whatever, what would I tell myself? And this here is a way that you can deal with trauma and not gain identity on yourself, because a lot of times the trauma that we experience, we attach to it, and then that makes us who we are. But that can also put us in a victim mode, because we feel like we're always that person. We feel like we carry that scar with us for the rest of our life. And what we do is, when we get into situations, what they could be like situations where you're at an upper limit and you're at the moment and you can't handle success, you can't handle love, you can't handle goodness. So you end up sabotaging it all, and you just keep scratching the wound and creating a bigger scar. You keep opening that wound periodically because you haven't dealt with what had happened back then. And most people, when I talk to us about this, if they went back, they'd say, it's going to be all right. Love yourself. This doesn't define you, who you are, and you would just show so much love and empathy to yourself, wouldn't you? And this is a healing process, guys. Like I said, to heal the world, you have to heal yourself. You becoming more self-aware changes everything around you and the people that you experience. And this is a really good one. What would you warn the child you about? But I would dive deeper into it if you're ready, if you're open, and go talk to yourself in that situation that you were going to warn yourself as a child about. Number 8, picture an ideal life. Describe an average day. Well, this is creative visualization. If you haven't heard of creative visualization, look it up. This is kind of a meditation form. Rob Dyrdek is really good with this. His podcast, he talks about this all the time. Getting to the point to where you're visualizing the details, exactly who you are, what you want. If you want a Lamborghini, get the picture out, put it everywhere. Like, what does the interior feel like when you get in? When you start the Lamborghini up, what does it sound like? Put yourself in that situation in super detail. Very powerful. Number 8 was picture an ideal life. Describe an average day. Number 9, what do you regret not continuing doing? And this can be, a beat yourself up list. I don't encourage you to do that. Find the things that you regret that what do I regret not continuing doing? Write them down, and then you need to get peace about each of those. I regret that I didn't continue to do this, but it allowed me to do this. So on a scale of 1 to 10, that's really a 3. I kind of regret it. I don't really big time regret it. But go through 1 through 10 and write this out. And sometimes you have to refer back to this over and over again because you'll forget about things in your life. And our memory's shaky anyways. We all know that. Science has proven that the memory is not accurate at all. So what do you regret not continuing doing? And then number 10, what are your biggest mistakes? This is a huge one to be self-aware on, right? If we learn, that's why we learn from history. We don't cancel history. We learn from history so that we don't make those same mistakes, right? What's the same with us? That's what our past is for. They're just learning lessons. So that we'll try to be a little bit more self-aware next time and we won't make that same mistake. But you'll find out if you really dive into those biggest mistakes of your life that they were such huge learning lessons that they cause you to be a better person in the end, no matter how shitty of a person you were. And it's amazing to see people overcome such just what you would consider horrific odds. Like everything was against them and they beat that and they become successful. It's so awesome to see. But I love these 10 questions. And like I said, you can buy the Meaning of Life cards it's just called The School of Life. And these are great. These questions like this, guys, I'm telling you, if you want to get to know somebody intimately in a better, don't do it on the first date, but it's a third or fourth date and you're getting to know somebody, sit down and ask these questions. They're really, really good. If you've been married for 10, 15, 20 years and you haven't asked these questions, sit down. I guarantee you the conversation will go amazing and you're going to love the responses. They get to learn about you and you get to learn about them, and just go back and forth. Say, oh, you do this one, then I'll do this one, you do this one, and then you talk and then I talk. How I usually like to say it is like each person gets like 5 minutes. And what you don't want to do is just like dismiss them and talk about yourself. Most of the time I've seen that happen. And then that just looks like, that's going to be a red flag to them. You need to listen to them and let them be able to talk and have love and compassion. And, but then at the same time, you share and you open up, and that will create amazing intimacy and it'll change your relationship, guys.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.